And the motivation for the work? Jesus said, freely you have received, freely give. You have received from God, free. Give away yourself that way. It's sort of a reality check, don't you think? When you think of the power of God in your life, does it make a difference? Do you believe that you've received a great deal from God? Do you believe that God has changed your life many times in many directions, aided you in some decisions you thought you would never be able to make you believe in some possibility that everybody was telling you was impossible? Or is there still some need with you that's unmet by God? Some area that seems to be left out in the cold, away from God's compassion? Do you feel intimately in your heart and soul the compassion that God has shown to you, to your loved ones, to those in the world? Or has fear overcome your faith in compassion? Many times people will not show compassion because they are afraid it won't be received. In some cases, people won't show compassion because they're fearful to go even near those kinds of people to share the love of God. But passing on God's compassion is the most intimate experience, we are told. And the reason it's intimate is because Jesus gave up his life to be compassionate. And this is not in some generalized way, although in a sermon that's the way it has to be presented, I guess. But there are particular ways for you to be compassionate. There are particular things for you to think about that touch your heart more than others. And in those particular ways, God calls for compassion. Like the story of the Zumwalt family, that compassion was directed in very intimate family kinds of ways because of what had happened in their lives. I wish I knew more about some of the things that went on in the family afterwards. I know that Elmo Zumwalt was a very respected admiral in the Navy, and did some wonderful things beyond the things he did with his son. For you and I to understand the kingdom Jesus preached, we need to do, I think, at least two things. One is to be courageous in sharing our faith in simple words and quiet ways, and not let fear overtake us. Much of what happens in the media is directed at giving us some fears. I'm struck by those little things they tell you before the news comes on, tune in here and hear about the deadly fire, the stalker, the kidnapping, hell raining down from heaven, whatever these things are. And they're always fear-provoking. You got to listen to this because you got to be afraid of it. And that becomes very much, I think, ingrained in us. How many family members, how many people in this church today, and the people that you know, both parents and others, when their children are outside, they're afraid. Sometimes in the very neighborhoods we all grew up in. So one of the things is to take the mark of faith that God gives us and believe that it's not fragile, that it in fact works in the most difficult cases, and that God is constantly coming to us with compassion and love. And when we remember Jesus on the cross, it seems hard to place limits on our life and on our sharing. And the second thing is to live in expectation, moments to share your love with others, moments when God's love comes into your life will come your way, especially if you expect them to come your way. It's like listening to children. and really listening to them. Sometimes they say the most profound things, and you think, wow, I could have been too busy to hear that. I could have been off somewhere else doing something else. I could have been rushing the kid out into the backyard, or did your mother or father used to say this to you? Why don't you go outside and play? Sometimes that was good advice, but other times he really had something to say and you wanted them to listen. One of the greatest responsibilities of being a parent or a grandparent or those who work with children is to realize what a teaching moment is, and when that teaching moment comes, be ready both to teach and to learn. That's the way Jesus did things. That was really the model. And the model of one father helping his son make that final journey is really the way God looks. I believe that with all my heart. Amen. Would you please rise and receive the benediction? Brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is lovely, whatever is gracious, if there is any excellence, anything worthy of praise, think about these things. And what you have learned and received and heard, now do. And the God of peace be with us always. Amen.